Why some people feel more pain than others, and why movement changes everything. There is something quietly strange that almost everyone has witnessed at least once in their life, yet very few people ever stop to think seriously about it. Two people, same age, same gender, similar jobs. On a perfectly ordinary day, both experience a very ordinary situation. A mild ache in the lower back after sitting too long. A stiff neck from sleeping in an awkward position. A sore shoulder after a long work session. Or simply bumping into the edge of a desk a bit harder than expected. The first person reacts strongly. They grimace, they sigh. They rub the area again and again. The discomfort quickly takes over their attention. The second person notices the pain too. It's not that they don't feel it, but their reaction is calmer. They rub it once or twice, take a slow breath, and continue working as if nothing serious has happened. If we judge only by appearances, most of us reach a familiar conclusion. The second person is just better at handling pain. But modern science suggests something very different. The real answer has little to do with personality. It's not about mental toughness, discipline, or willpower. It lies in a concept that is far more important and far less discussed. Pain threshold. Pain threshold is not fixed. Pain threshold is not a personality trait. It is not something you either have or don't have at birth. Contrary to popular belief, it is a biological characteristic that changes over time, shaped by environment, lifestyle, and especially by how much the body moves. This leads to a conclusion that often sounds counterintuitive, sometimes even controversial. People who move less tend to experience more pain. At first glance, this feels wrong. We're used to thinking that exercise causes soreness, fatigue, and even injury. So why do people who exercise regularly seem more comfortable with pain in daily life? To answer this, we need to abandon some outdated assumptions and look more closely at how the body, particularly the nervous system, actually processes pain. Pain does not come directly from muscles or joints. One of the most common misunderstandings about pain is the belief that it originates directly from the place where it's felt. If your back hurts, you assume the problem is in your back. If you have a headache, you assume the problem is in your head. In reality, muscles, joints, and tissues mainly generate signals. They do not decide how painful something feels. That decision is made by the brain and the central nervous system. The human body constantly receives enormous amounts of information: temperature, pressure, tension, chemical changes, micro damage in tissues. But not every signal is translated into pain. The brain acts as a filter. It decides which signals represent danger, which can be ignored, and which need to be amplified to demand immediate attention. In other words, pain is not a simple reflex. It is the result of a complex information processing system. And within that system exists an invisible volume knob, the pain threshold. When the threshold is low, even mild stimuli can trigger intense pain signals. When the threshold is high, the same stimulus may register only as mild discomfort, or not as pain at all. Movement adjusts the volume knob. Here is where physical activity becomes crucial. Exercise doesn't just strengthen muscles or improve cardiovascular health. It directly influences how the nervous system regulates pain. To study this relationship, researchers have used various methods. One of the most widely known is the cold pressor test. In this experiment, participants place their hand into very cold water while researchers measure how long they can tolerate the discomfort before withdrawing it. This is not a form of torture. It's a standardized scientific tool for assessing pain tolerance. Across many studies, a consistent pattern appears. People who engage in regular physical activity can tolerate the pain longer than those who are sedentary. This result shows up repeatedly across different populations, study designs, and measurement techniques. More importantly, this difference cannot be explained simply by motivation, determination, or trying harder. Even when researchers control for psychological factors like attitude, expectation, and effort, the relationship between movement and pain tolerance remains. This strongly suggests that real biological changes are taking place. The role of endorphins. One of the most studied mechanisms behind this phenomenon involves endorphins. Endorphins are chemicals produced naturally by the body. They have a structure and function similar to certain powerful pain relief drugs. When released, they bind to specific receptors in the brain and spinal cord, reducing the perception of pain and often creating a sense of well-being. Physical activity, especially rhythmic, sustained movement, has been shown to stimulate endorphin release. This explains why many people feel calmer, lighter, or mentally clearer after exercise. But the key point is not what happens after a single workout. What truly matters is long-term adaptation. Training the nervous system. When the body repeatedly experiences moderate physical stress paired with internal pain regulation mechanisms, the nervous system begins to adapt. Over time, the brain learns to process discomfort more efficiently. It becomes less reactive, less alarmist. Not every unpleasant signal is treated as a threat. In simple terms, regular movement trains the nervous system to distinguish between real danger and temporary discomfort. As a result, the pain threshold gradually rises. This process is slow and cumulative, much like building muscle or improving endurance. In the early stages, many people actually feel more soreness. This is a normal response to unfamiliar stimulation. But when movement is consistent and appropriate, the nervous system recalibrates. Small aches that once felt overwhelming become easier to tolerate. They no longer dominate attention or disrupt daily life. Why inactivity makes pain worse? This also explains a common experience many people find confusing. After a long period of inactivity, people often report feeling weaker, stiffer, and more uncomfortable, even without any clear injury. They experience more back pain, more neck tension, more lingering aches. This doesn't necessarily mean their body is breaking down. It often means their pain threshold has lowered. Just like any biological adaptation, pain regulation requires maintenance. When movement disappears, the beneficial nervous system adjustments gradually reverse. The system becomes more sensitive. Signals that were once ignored are now amplified. That's why many people feel that after stopping exercise for a while, everyday discomfort seems sharper than before. This sensation is not imagined. It reflects a genuine shift in how the brain interprets sensory input. What exercise is and what it is not. It's important to be clear here. Exercise is not a cure-all. It is not a medical treatment. It cannot replace professional health care when needed. No credible research claims that physical activity can eliminate all forms of chronic pain. What large health organizations and extensive scientific literature do agree on is this: physical activity is a powerful supporting factor for overall health, including how the body experiences and responds to pain. Exercise does not remove pain from life, but it can make pain more manageable by raising the pain threshold. If this feels familiar. If any of this sounds familiar, you are not alone. Many people once felt strong, flexible, and mentally balanced. Then work, responsibilities, or life circumstances gradually pushed movement out of their routine. Months or years later, small pains appear more frequently. They last longer. They feel harder to ignore. This does not mean your body is beyond repair. It means your pain processing system has adapted to a different lifestyle. And just as it adapted in a negative direction, it can adapt in a positive one when conditions change. The body is not designed for stillness. The human body was never designed for prolonged inactivity. When you move, you are not only influencing muscles and joints, you are reshaping how your nervous system interprets the world, including pain. Pain threshold is not about being tough. It is not about suffering silently. It is the outcome of a well-regulated biological system, one that knows when to warn you and when to stay calm. Understanding this doesn't mean ignoring pain. It means understanding why pain feels the way it does. And that understanding alone can change how you relate to your body. Closing. If content like this helps you understand your body more clearly, consider subscribing, not to watch more, but to understand better. This video is for educational purposes only and does not replace personalized medical advice. Every body is different. Listen to yours and consult qualified professionals when necessary.